Hello and welcome. I called the channel The Jungle Nook, and this is the third episode in a series that I'm putting together on how I care for my tropical houseplants and how I'm able to get them to grow real nice and healthy with real nice lush foliage. And some of my other goals was to try and get my plants to grow as quickly as I could while also trying to find ways to reduce my amount of time that I spend caring for my plants. Now, to get them to grow as nice as I do and as fast as I do, I'm trying to recreate the conditions that they would be growing in their natural environment, tropical rainforest. So one of the things that I do, because it does rain every day in a tropical rainforest, is I water my tropical varieties pretty much every single day. So I'm going to actually show in this video how I do that. This is what I do every morning. It's a real nice way for me to start my day out. And in this room, I have 76 houseplants. And not all of them are tropical, but all of them are in need of watering today. So I'm going to show you in real time. I won't fast forward. I won't, skip ahead or nothing. Actual time, how long it takes for me to water 76 plants. And I think you'll be surprised that it should be done in under 10 minutes. And then after that, I'm just going to give some additional information on some of the unexpected benefits to watering your plants daily. I'll explain how it helps to reduce the problem of pests. And I'll also explain how it helps to reduce the potential of misdiagnosing any kind of problems that your plants may be having. But the first thing we're going to do is go around and water everything. The smaller can that I use, I think it's yellow, that holds a gallon of water, and the larger one that I'm using, that holds about a gallon and a half. And what I do is while I'm watering with one can, I have the other one in the kitchen sink filling up, and you're going to see this is pretty quick, and it's a great way to start your day out, or it's a great way to unwind and relax after work, which is how this hobby should be. It should not be stressful or frustrating, and your plant chores should not be a chore. So as you can see, I'm not really giving the plants a lot of water. And if you've ever heard them say, let your plants dry out in between waterings, they don't mean every time you water, and they also don't mean bone dry. You don't want the soil to get overly dry. If you do, you run the risk of damaging the water roots of the plants. The roots, you'll have those big roots, the main roots that will come out of the plant, and then you'll have the secondary roots. Those are all the bigger roots that you can see real easily. But off of them will grow water roots, really tiny hair-like roots. And those are what are sucking up the moisture as well as the nutrients in the soil that gets absorbed into that moisture. And if you let the soil overly dry out in between waterings, you're damaging those roots. So when you do rehydrate the soil, the plant has to put time and energy into repairing those roots before it can really concentrate on the foliage. And if that's a repetitive cycle that your plants are in, and then you go a few extra days than normal, that's just additional stress on that root structure. And what will happen is over time, you'll start to notice leaves starting to turn yellow or brown, falling off the plant, and you'll be trying to identify what is that problem. And what could happen then is you Google it and you'll get several suggestions One could be underwatering. Well, that's an easy one to fix. You'll start watering it a little bit more, hopefully a little more frequently and not more water at one time. Another problem that will probably come up is inadequate light. So yeah, okay, that's easy too. You can move that. You have a spot in front of a window or something with more light, so you move it over there. But the thing is, where that plant originally was, it had grown those leaves out to be efficient, not just to position itself to catch the light, but also the cell structure within the leaf, it grew in such a way to be efficient for the amount of light, the intensity of the light. So now you've just moved the plant, and you're not sure if it really needs fertilizer or not, and you don't want to over fertilize and get a fertilizer burn. So you do fertilize it, but it's super weak. It's like a 5-5-5 you give it, so you're not burning the plant. But you just took care of all three possibilities. But now, over the course of the next couple weeks or so, you're noticing that you got a few more leaves that aren't doing too good. And you're not sure why that is. And you're looking at the plant and you're thinking, well, maybe because I moved it, where it's facing the window, maybe that's getting too much light. Maybe on the other side of the plant, because the other leaves are shading the leaves on the back side that are facing you. Maybe they're not getting enough light. So now you move the plant back to where you got it from. Well, you did that, thinking, it was doing great there before, and it is putting out new growth, when you had it in front of the window, but that new growth was going to develop and position itself to collect that light and that intensity of light to be efficient. And you just moved it back to a shadier spot, and it's in a different position. So now you're going to still have the same problem with some of those new leaves where they're going to be changing color, when in reality it just needed more water. But now you don't know what the problem is, except, I over-fertilized. Well, what's the solution to that? Replacing the soil. I mean, I'm taking this all to the extreme, but you see my point, I think. Because now that plant has been moved twice, you're repot, changing the soil and everything. That plant's really stressed and has a weakened immune system. Now, most of us actually do already have pests in our house for our plants, but we keep them under control. Well, that weak plant where it's been dropping those leaves has some open wounds that are a great access point for pests and insects and things. And the plant's got a weakened immune system. So now you get an outbreak, maybe a mold or a fungus or something happens because the plant was in distress, and that could have been the final nail in the coffin for the plant. A lot of times it really is watering. My best advice when you see an issue with a plant, look at your watering schedule. And not a schedule. You can't really have a schedule for plants. You got to give them the water and nutrients that they need when they need it. But, put a little thought into it, monitor your plant, and maybe it's being overwatered or underwatered, and start there. So my advice is, however you're watering your plants now, because I do not recommend watering your plants every day like I do, unless you're going to watch all of these videos in this series, so that you can see all the different pieces of the puzzle that I do to prevent root rot, and how my plants use that much moisture and use that much nutrients, and how everything fits together so that you can water it every day. But my advice is, however you water your plants now, keep doing that. Keep doing it at the same frequency and the same amount of water, but in between those times when you would normally water your plant, go and give your plant a little extra water. Maybe only 20-25% what you usually give it, but that's extra in between when you would normally be watering your plant. Do that for a couple of months and see if you get any results. You might be pleasantly surprised. There we go. Just watered 76 plants. I'm gonna look at the time. Looks like that took me maybe 7 or 8 minutes. And what I showed you with how I watered, that's a little quicker than I usually do. Usually the coffee pot's going while I'm watering. And when the coffee's done, I'll make myself a cup of coffee and I finish watering. And I spend more time looking at the plants and stuff. Like this room, yeah, I did it in 10 minutes. But really in the morning, I would probably spend 20 minutes or even a half hour in this room. It's relaxing. It's a time for me to look at my plants and I can keep up on things, spot any problems that might be developing. So the next video in this series is going to be on my winter preparations. It's how I prepare for the winter growing season. Because contrary to belief, tropical plants actually don't go dormant for the winter. I know that we're taught that in the winter they really slow down a lot or stop growing, and that because of that we shouldn't fertilize in the winter and we should reduce the amount of water that we're giving them because they don't require it. What we're actually doing is changing the climate, and that is what is slowing down and restricting the growth of our tropical plants. And I, for one, do not want to lose an entire growing season on my plants. I'll also discuss the importance of uppotting in the winter. If you discover over winter that you have a plant that's root bound, it is totally fine to uppot that plant in the winter, providing you're not reducing the amount of nutrients it's getting and the amount of water. You can't do that and uppot at the same time. And you also want to make sure that you have adequate humidity for that plant too until it gets reestablished in that new pot. There's all sorts of things I can go over that are a little contrary to the norm that you're going to hear or see when you're looking up plants. But I'm having a lot of fun. I'm already on episode 4 in this series. I've never done nothing like this before where I'm talking about my plants and sharing how I take care of my plants. And you guys are sending me so many amazing comments and stuff. It's so encouraging. And I'm learning from you guys. You're sharing information with me and teaching me new things that are helping me out a lot. I'm having a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. And if you want to watch another video that really complements this one, that would be the outdoor hanging baskets, watering outdoor hanging baskets. There's a lot of information in that will complement what was in this video. Or if you haven't watched any of the other videos in this series, the very first one, I touched on a lot of different subjects. There's a lot of really good information to that. If you haven't watched episode 1, check out episode 1.